So when you have one of these lower court judges in Seattle, Washington, in Providence, Rhode Island, Boston, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., you have litigants who now know that the more radical activists of the judges, appointed by Clinton or Obama or Biden, will use their court to not only deliver the decision they want, but to impose it on the entire country. Even a circuit court can't do that. The Ninth Circuit cannot impose its will on all the other circuits. So how is it that this lonely one judge can impose his or her will on the whole country? Bill Barr, say what you will. Look, we had a little rut, he and I, there during the 2020 election over Donald Trump and so forth, and I must tell you, we've put it behind us, pretty much, at my instigation, because he's still very solid on a lot of stuff on constitutional issues. Again, putting aside 2020 and those issues. And so I wanted to play this clip of him because he was very good the other day in addressing the issue of judges, usurping judges, and so forth. And I wanted to play that for you. Again, the information is very solid. Go.
The president is absolutely right to be frustrated and concerned about the way the courts are handling this. First, there's a pattern whereby these district court judges are trying to usurp the responsibility of the president in the national security area. The Constitution gives the president the power to make the judgments about how we deal with foreign nationals when we are animated by national security concerns. It's his call, not a district court judge's call. The second phenomenon that's occurring is even where it's appropriate for the court to play its traditional role of safeguarding the liberties of American citizens, we have this phenomenon of nationwide injunctions where the lowest level judge, district judges, try to bind the entire nation and bind the president in their initial decision. And that is not what we have meant by the judicial power under our Constitution. And it leads to a lot of instability in government and a lot of instability within the court system. It's something the court has to deal with. The Chief Justice has to deal with the problem of nationwide injunctions.
Speaking of the Supreme Court, Justice Elena Kagan back in 2022, she said this can't be right. Watch here.
It just can't be right that one district judge can stop a nationwide policy in its tracks and leave it stopped for the years that it takes to go through normal process.
From your read and understanding of the current makeup of the Supreme Court, if one of these cases does get up there and they are able to take on this issue, do you think it will come down in favor of the executive branch being able to execute what it wants to do?
Yes, if they finally stand up and decide a case instead of, hanging back from these decisions, I think it'll come out the right way. I think most of the justices appreciate how absurd this is. Look, when a district court judge decides a case, even the judge down the hall in the same building is not bound by that result. They can find differently in a similar case or a same kind of case. The only time it becomes binding on someone other than the parties, the precise parties, is when it's appealed to the circuit court, and then it becomes the rule in a certain number of states, and it doesn't become the national rule until it's adopted by the Supreme Court, and that all takes time.
It's so well put. I wanted you to hear this. So let me emphasize the last part, how crazy this is. What are circuit courts? They're the courts of appeal. Congress decides to set this whole thing up, other than the Supreme Court, which is in the Constitution, the highest court in the land. So it's at the top of the hierarchy. Everything else is created by Congress. So they create these district judges. They determine what the district is. Maybe there's the District of Washington, D.C. Maybe there's the District of Manhattan within New York, whatever they want. Then they set up a circuit court system, an appellate court system, which has fewer judges, but they judge on a panel initially and then the full court. So a panel of 3 and then the full court. Let's say there's 12 judges on the court if they choose to take it up. But the reason they do panels sometimes is because of the workload. There's just too much that comes up. And maybe they'll look at the whole case. If the petitioner says, this is a very important case, we are asking the entire court to look at it, they may or they may not. And these 3-judge panels are supposed to be chosen effectively by lottery. So there's no game plan. So you have all these federal district courts, about 700 of them. Then you have circuit courts. You've heard of the Ninth Circuit, the Fourth Circuit, the Fifth Circuit. And Congress set it up where these circuits cover a certain number of states. Ninth Circuit, the western states, several of them, including California. The Second Circuit, a number of states on the East Coast, same with the Third Circuit. Fourth Circuit, several southern states. Eighth Circuit, several Midwestern states, that sort of thing. So you have these district courts all over the place, but in a district created by Congress. Then you have these circuit courts, which are fewer, and then the Supreme Court. Does that make sense, Mr. Producer? Mm-hmm. So when you have one of these lower court judges, one of the, I think now it's 677 or 87, but let's say 700, in Seattle, Washington, in Providence, Rhode Island, Boston, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., in Manhattan, in New York City, New York, or whatever, you have litigants who now know that the more radical activists of the judges, appointed by Clinton or Obama or Biden, will use their court to not only deliver the decision they want, but to impose it on the entire country. On the entire country. But what Attorney General Barr there is saying is even a circuit court can't do that. The Ninth Circuit cannot impose its will on all the other circuits. So how is it that this lonely or lowly judge, one judge, can impose his or her will on the whole country? An injunction. Or even if the case is brought in their district, but mostly is unaffected by anything in their district, is another district 2,000 miles away, and they choose to hold on to it even though they shouldn't, you turn those planes around and bring them back out of the District of Columbia, and if you don't, I'm going to hold you in contempt. Oh, and if Trump doesn't listen, he's the one violating the Constitution. You see what I mean? And what Bill Barr is saying there is what I've said there last week and 2 weeks ago, so we agree 100%. The Supreme Court had an opportunity to fix this 3 weeks ago in that case involving another rogue federal district Democrat judge who ordered the president to spend money that the prior president had committed in the foreign policy arena. And what the president said through his representatives was, I want 60 days to look at this. So don't spend it. The judge said, I'm ordering you to spend it. In some cases, the judge said, these monies were already expended, so we have to reimburse these people. The president says, no, I got to look at this stuff. So the president gets an appeal quickly to the U.S. Supreme Court. They take the case. This is 3 weeks ago.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.